Mike Claiborne here with Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. And Ryan, I've heard so much about the Hero Loan. Tell me about it.
Absolutely. If you're VA eligible, there's no better loan out there. We'll pay for your appraisal and rates are about a full point lower. Apply online today at hero.loan.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. Mike Claiborne here, and we have a chance to visit with one of my favorites, and certainly a Cardinal favorite. We saw him in the Cardinal outfield for a number of years, longtime major leaguer, now a Cardinal Hall of Famer, broadcaster, coach, you name it, he's everything. He's Jim Edmonds. First of all, man, it's great to see you. As I mentioned to you earlier, I haven't seen you since March.
That is crazy if you think about how many times we see each other per year. Maybe almost every day for the entire summer. So yeah. Interesting.
Well, you're looking
I never
well.
even think about that too. It's like, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay.
Well, here's what I wanted to talk. First off, you were one of the first people that came down with COVID a few months ago, and thankfully you survived. How are you feeling, and have you had any side effects?
I feel good. I feel normal. It wasn't even that bad when I had it the first time. So I got pneumonia from it, but I didn't even know. And I don't know, I never really even got explained why the pneumonia was where it was at and why I got sick. But I tested positive. I was not feeling good for a few days. I got pneumonia. That lasted for a few more days, and I just came home and relaxed, and eventually everything went away, and had a little cough for a while, and then that went away. And, just like for me, it was just a little bit of a normal flu-like situation without puking everywhere. So I was all right.
When did you realize that you were having a problem? Because some people say, well, it starts with the sniffles and this and that. At what point did you say to yourself, you know what, this may be a little bit more serious than I thought? Because at the time, we really didn't know what this was all about as far as COVID was concerned.
Yeah. You know what? I knew I was sick. And we weren't really concerned with, it was so early. It was like right after I left spring training in maybe late February, early March. But like into it, probably, I don't know, I guess halfway through, whatever, the first week, I don't know, 4 days in, of just not feeling great. I all of a sudden couldn't sleep one night and I couldn't breathe. And so I kind of fought through that. And then the next night I couldn't breathe at all. So it was kind of like gasping for air a little bit. I kind of figured something was wrong. The COVID situation was starting to heat up. And so I had to sit up to sleep. Second night that I had the no breathing issues. And then the third night it got so bad I just couldn't sleep at all. I sat up the whole night. And then the next day, so it'd be basically the third day of it really kicking in, I went to the hospital and they basically tested me, said my blood levels, the oxygen levels were low, tested positive, and said I had pneumonia, I had stuff in my lungs. And so really just took it easy for a couple of days, took some antibiotics, and I was done.
Well, it's good to have you in one piece for sure. I can speak on behalf of a lot of people on that front. Hey, so what have you been doing? What's kept you busy since we had a short season of baseball?
Kids, man. Kids in this house. New romance. You can see those things over there. No, I'm kidding. That's it, Matt. You know what? The greatest thing about this whole situation for me was it made me slow back down and realize I was retired. It got me comfortable at home again. It got me, baseball was gone, so it kind of kept me away from going to the stadium. And I really sat home and tried to pay attention to the kids. We couldn't really go anywhere, so it was the grocery store and started cooking at home again and really just kind of enjoying my new house. And as you can see, I have a little bit of a mess still, and you can't see behind the computer where all of the junk is, but my office has been kind of the last thing to get cleaned up. But I really did it. I really said it was kind of a weird thing to say that the one thing I got out of this was I got retired again. I got back to my family, the calmness of going through a breakup, new home and all that. And now I'm super comfortable, love being at home. My oldest daughter moved in, my girlfriend has moved in now, and my family is better than it's ever been.
Good for you. Glad to hear that you're happy, because at this point, that's all you want to just be happy, man. You don't really care about the other stuff. Hey,
Yeah, and I wasn't also.
I'm going to talk a little baseball for a minute, but I do want to get back to some other things. First of all, give me your thoughts on the season, not only what you saw locally, but also postseason, if you had a chance to see any of that, because, you know, the game is obviously changing right before us. Pitchers are going shorter, hitters are swinging for the fences, outfielders don't throw to the right bases, and some of them can't throw at all. So give me your thoughts on what you see in the game.
Well, I'll take them two different ways. First of all, the season was a mess for the Cardinals. I was close to that, trying to have friends and organization and players that are kind of like kids to me, and friends also with some of the older players. They went through a lot, and I felt bad for them at times. A couple of those guys didn't see their families for months, living in hotels and living even at their houses here away from their home base. I think it was brutal on them. They couldn't really do anything at the stadium. I know they couldn't get in the video room. They couldn't get the scouting they wanted to be for hitters. It was just a lot. So that was a mess. I thought it was going to be a joke at first, but in all seriousness, it was just a mess and there's nothing they can do. Second of all, I think the playoffs was a freaking sure win. I think that it restored the excitement. I regretted saying that I love the format. I think it was perfect timing. They did. That's actually the first time that they changed something that I actually liked. And I didn't want it, but if you think about it, I know this Zoom doesn't work great, but I'll throw this to you for a second. When they first said that they were going to expand, I thought, how dumb, but how perfect was it this year, being short, that they actually came up with a good idea, implemented it, and it worked.
Yeah, you know what? They did it on the fly. Because normally it takes X amount of studies and they talk to too many people and then it waits for another 2 or 3 years. This time they just said, hey, you know what? We're going to put our foot to the firewall. We're going to move forward and we're going to see where this takes us. And I hope that they learn two things. One, it's not always bad to try things. And two, let's file some of this away and see if we can make this part of our fabric for the future.
Yeah, and then like I was saying, I go back to the playoffs. I think not only did it work, I think it revived it, baseball. I think that there's no way they could have gone a whole year without playing. There's no way they could have just gone into a few teams like the NBA did. And it worked, man. And I know that probably was a pain for some of the teams down there to be kind of quarantined in hotels in Arlington and different places. But as a fan sitting at home, I couldn't have thought that it worked any better than it could. It was the best baseball I've seen all year. The juice ball worked again, and we're gonna have baseball back, and hopefully spring training goes without a hitch.
Yeah, that's something that I think is the next big step as far as being on the field. I'm starting to hear maybe they may move it back a little bit to give themselves a little bit more breathing room, and we'll see how it unfolds. But it's going to take a little time for us to get to normalcy. Hey, what was the one thing that stood out in the postseason for you? I mean, was it a Rosarina? Was it the fact that you had a high payroll team versus a low payroll team and they go to 6 games? What stood out for you?
Gosh, I don't know. What stood out is how well the Dodgers played. A lot of the teams that are the best teams end up kind of fizzling a little bit because that one team everyone's gunning for you, and one team usually breaks through. I was impressed. Kershaw made a pretty good adjustment, I think, with not just pumping strikes. He threw a lot of balls around the zone. But the Dodgers impressed me. I didn't like the Dodgers about 5 years ago. Wasn't a big fan. But I think this new group, this new generation of players, and there's some of those guys that were there at the time, they're just coming up, and maybe they were a little bit younger, but they're exciting to watch. And I like the nucleus that they have. I think I don't know much about their coaching staff, but I think that they did a nice job managing these kids. But sometimes you don't need to manage these kids. Sometimes they throw them out there on the field. I mean, this lineup is the same every day. They did a great job. I don't really diss the Astros that much because I think everyone's cheating. They just got caught. I was kind of hoping or expecting them to kind of push through into the World Series. That doesn't. I mean, you know me, Mike. I'm as honest as they get as far as baseball, and that stuff just happened. So they got caught in a big way, and I think there's more teams out there that are doing something similar. But I kind of was interested in watching them. And I was surprised how good Tampa Bay was for me because I didn't watch them that much.
Nobody does. They didn't even go watch them at the ballpark when the gates were open.
Wait! I heard that they had the best. I don't know what the story was, but I heard that they drew the most fans for the American League for the whole year. What was behind that?
Well, as far as when they played in Florida, they were average.
I think they outdrew.
Nobody goes to those games. It's unfortunate. It's a bad ballpark. They haven't marketed it well, and that's a team that might, if they don't get a new ballpark, and I don't know why they will in Florida, that thing may end up in Nashville. And I've always been told they got the money, they got the land to build a ballpark. It's just a matter of time. And I think that now Tampa's hoping that now that they were in the World Series, the City Fathers and somebody will build them a park. I just don't see it happening. So they may be moving out of there.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I never want to leave the Cardinals organization, but if they moved to Nashville, count me in.
Hey, I went to school there. It's one of my favorite towns. If it was just about 8 degrees warmer, I'd be there all the time. But it's going to be interesting. Stay tuned on that front. Hey, Game 6. Are we in an era now where the analytics has just taken over, where most people felt Kevin Cash should have left this guy in there? He was dealing, but his point was he didn't want Mookie Betts to see him for a third time. Hitters, the good hitters adjust from pitch to pitch, not at bat to at bat. Give me your thoughts on that mindset, on what he was thinking, especially in that situation where the guy wasn't getting touched up. Is that much of a difference from the second at bat to the third at bat?
You know what? I'm going to give you my political answer, and then I'm going to give you the answer you want. Sometimes as a manager, you got to take chances, right? Well, I feel like he made all the right moves for an entire season, and I think that one he moved right there he made could have ruined him forever. You have to make a decision one way or the other. You leave him in and he gets hit, you're getting killed. You take him out and you're getting killed. I personally do not take him out there. I manage a different way if I'm the manager. I manage like they used to manage.
Yeah.
I know who can pitch. I know who's tough and who's not. I know I've played with guys that as soon as they get a 2-1 lead in the 5th inning, they're looking over their shoulder like, hey, bullpen, let's go, get me out of here. So with that guy, unless he is a complete, wimp, man, you're staying out there for 9 if you're throwing that game. I got to believe that sometimes you leave a guy in down 1-0, even 2-0, even 3-0 at times because they're not going to score again. And your offense is going to score anyways. If you try to replace him, which in the National League with offense sometimes, and you take that guy out, you're screwed. So I think that, I think that was a big miss on his part. And I'd hate to say that because I respect the heck out of managers because it's a difficult job.
It's hard, yeah.
Coming through the 90s and the early 2000s, that doesn't happen.
No, I agree. There might be a fist fight out on the mound because he might not want to come out. I look at guys like Carp. If you would have went out to go get Chris Carpenter in that situation, we'd have a struggle at least before anything could be resolved. And there's some other pitchers who was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. You can go back and sit down and watch it. But, and I know Snell was not happy, but it's almost the norm along with this. He hadn't pitched more than 6 innings all year. These guys now have become mentally conditioned. As you said earlier, when they get a 2-1 lead, they look around, they're looking for help. As soon as they say, well, I've done my part, I got us to 5 or I got us to 6. Well, hey, it's a 9-inning game, man. We'd like to have you around a little longer.
Well, and that's why there's only a few Clayton Kershaws and guys like that with numbers, right? Mm-hmm. There's only a few guys with numbers because you got to stay out there. But I saw an Instagram thing yesterday or the day before, and it just was a flash to Joe Torre stepping up on the top step. And you flashed over to Mike Mussina, and he said, don't you come out here. Don't come out here. And he's like, stay right there. So those are the good old days. I think sometimes managers make that first move a little too quick, and then they start to come out for the second one, and they're screwed. Like, and back in the old day, a lot of guys would not come out there, let the catcher do the work, right? And then if you have to come out there and talk, you have that visit to the mound saying, I'm going to take you out right here if you're ready to go. But if you're not, let me know.
Yeah.
Versus going out there the second time, hey, I'm stuck here, I have to take you out. So I think they go out there too many times too early because there's so many young players now that they always need guidance. And so now the second time you really need to go out there and talk to them, you can't. You just got to pull them.
Hey, let's look on the local front for a minute. The lack of offense is something Cardinal fans have seen over the last couple of seasons. And I'm not sure if it's one thing or one person, but from where you sit, you watched it from the booth, you've been in the dugout. What adjustment would a player, or what would you implement as far as an adjustment you'd like to make if you were in a situation where offensively you just weren't getting it going? What are some of the things you would do for yourself? Because I can't ask you what you would do for a team, but I know you know Jim Edmonds better than anybody else.
You mean what would I do if I was struggling?
Yeah.
Well, I do a lot of things. I exhaust every option, every scenario, right? So I go ask for, first of all, I go to Chad Blair if I'm the Cardinals, and I go right to the video room and ask my video guy, hey, what does it look like? And he's usually spot on.
Yeah.
I know a little bit more about hitting now than I did, I think, as a player. So I see little things more now, or before I just watched your body. But I have to go and look at my hitting and see if I'm turning too much, if I'm opening up, or I'm having bad luck. And then I'll go and watch when I'm hot and see if there's a difference there. And then if that doesn't all work, I'll go out 3 o'clock and I'll hit until my hands bleed 2 or 3 days in a row until I figure it out.
You know what? You have such a keen eye for the game and a great understanding of it. And to watch you and Dan work, it's really a lot of fun. As you watch the game from upstairs, what are some of the things you think fans should probably pay more attention to compared to the things that maybe might be overrated in how we watch the game?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, give me something to start with. I don't really –
well,
I think sometimes I lose it when I'm watching.
You know, because, you know, sometimes we see things that maybe it's the way a hitter's approach is, and maybe he, you know, I'll give you a good example. Well, make him throw a strike. You know, we were all taught Little League. Hey, make him throw a strike. Well, today's pitcher, once he gets that get me over fastball, and now all of a sudden he's dealing the cards where he's throwing a slider, he's throwing a cutter, he's throwing a pitch you can't square up, and all of a sudden it's a very short at bat. Do we overrate the fact of making him throw a strike compared to hunt for pitches early?
Well, I'll give you a good example. Talking to Harrison a little bit, and it's no secret that I spend a lot of time with him. I used to tell him all the time, hey, you got to hit the first fastball you see. Mm-hmm. First fastball comes out of the guy's hand, and you got to swing. Where a lot of guys go up there and try to feel through their at-bat. But if you watch a lot of guys that struggle a little bit with that, right? Like, you can't feel through the at-bat if you can't hold off on a slider, or you can't feel through an at-bat if you can't hit certain pitches. And a lot of guys go, oh my God, this guy's got a good slider. I got to look for it, and I got to stay away from it. I got to do this, I got to do that. That doesn't work that way. You go up there looking dead red fastball, and if it comes out of his hand with any kind of spin, you just go, okay, I'm not going to swing at this pitch. And if it's a strike, it's a strike. Because right. You're going to have trouble hitting it anyway. So, I mean, the chances of him throwing 3 of those for strikes is impossible. It's never going to happen. It's like looking for a fastball inside. It's never going to be able to throw 3 in a row. You're better off looking out over the plate, looking for a fastball, and if it's spinning, take it. You're going to get another fastball, or he's going to make a mistake with something that sits up there better than if you see a breaking ball, you know it's 2 strikes, you got to go and get it. Like, guys panic. Like, I got it. And then it's too late. You're swinging a slider in the dirt. So I was thinking that stop swinging at breaking balls unless you have to, and do not let a fastball go across the plate for a strike unless you completely can see as a guy watching TV what pitch is fooling them or tying you up. You know, you're not swinging a fastball inside first pitch unless you're cheating. And when a guy says, hey, why did I swing at that pitch? And you say, I was cheating and looking for that pitch. Perfect. Tip your hat. Get it next time, you know? Yeah. But don't take one down the middle.
Yeah, and you know what? You're right. That drives me crazy when a guy just pours a fastball in there and you stand there and look at it. I got news for you, my friend. You may not see that pitch again, especially if you got a 2-strike or 1-strike count. He starts throwing the breaking ball. it's a wrap because you're going to chase it. Because as you mentioned, he panics. He feels like he's got to do something. And the bigger mistake is a guy who's trying to pull a pitch, is breaking to the outside corner. What are you going to do? You hit it to second baseman, hit it to shortstop. It's not going to get out of the infield. And I just see so many guys today get themselves out more than the pitcher gets them out.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, you talk about a lot of the guys that struggle with that are righty, right? So the only thing that I can offer in that situation is, hey, I know what it's like to face a tough lefty. And this is my thought process. And that was it. He throws me a fastball and swinging it. I don't care if it's over my head or up, down, left, right. I'm not letting him throw me a slider because I can't hit it. And that was my philosophy, right? He's going to hang you a breaking ball. He's going to make a mistake with a changeup, whatever. But that's it. Like I said, do not let a fastball go. It's kind of inexcusable. And in the words of Tony LaRussa, basically, like, be ready to hit. It's basically telling me you're not ready to hit. If you're taking a heater down the middle, or you need to talk yourself into being ready to hit, and you're not, you might as well shoot yourself in the head.
Yeah, you'll give it back to somebody else and let them do it. Hey, all right, player, broadcaster, coach. Check what box you'd like to explore more. Paycheck, not a factor.
Say that again. As a broadcaster
player,
or as
broadcaster
a coach?
or coach, check the box you'd like to explore more. Paycheck not being a factor.
Well, I would love to play again, but I can't. So I'm going to put that right out there.
How many surgeries did you have in your career? How many surgeries?
In my career, or total since now to the day I started till now, I've had about 13.
13, okay.
So I would say maybe 10 during my career, maybe 11.
Yeah,
I think I've
right.
had 2 cents.
You're right. You can't play anymore.
No,
So broadcaster, coach.
Yeah, broadcasting and coach. I can't even do the damn fantasy camp. I'm a coach at fantasy camp now. I would like to help. I don't know if I'm not ready for a full-time coach. I wouldn't. If someone said, here's $5 million a year to manage, and I'll give you 5 years, I don't even know if I'm ready for that yet. I mean, I'd probably be stupid not to take that, but the time commitment is over the top. And the problem with helping part-time is I feel like they always think you're going to be stepping on whoever's toes you're helping, which is clearly never going to happen because I have the utmost respect for the coaches. So I'd like to do it all, to be honest with you. I'd like to be I'd like to be in there helping. I'd like to be the face like, what's his name? Nolan Ryan was for a while. I'd like to be able to walk down the dugout once in a while or the clubhouse and have everyone afraid of me, knowing that I would be bitching someone out or releasing them. I mean, I'd like to do it all. I would like to be the president, the general manager, whatever. I would like to run a team and have some responsibility or get some credit for saying, this is what I did for this guy, or this is what I did for this organization, this is what I did for this team. Because I think I have that temperament and that eye for baseball that I could do that.
You know what? And I wouldn't argue with you on that. I've been around you enough, and I see how you carry yourself, and you gain the respect of players because you're not belittling them, but you give them a reason on why to pay attention. And there have been some guys who I know have paid attention to you, and I think they become better players because of it. So it's something I'd love to see you be more involved in. Although, as a broadcaster, you've turned out to be pretty good at that as well. So you're going to have to stretch yourself a little thin here at some point. Hey, I want to ask you about Tony LaRussa takes a job in Chicago. Most of the people who know him, and you know him as well as anyone, weren't really surprised when he took the job because he's a guy who, wherever he goes, he knows he's going to go to a place where he's got a chance to win. What do you think of it?
Wasn't a surprise, like you said. People are shocked because he's old. I mean, he hasn't stopped since the day he retired.
You're right.
He's been everywhere. He's been on an organization, on a team, in the middle of something. Every time I've been to dinner with him, he's looking at an iPad, watching a different team. I'm like, he is baseball 24/7. So didn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, I was the same way. During the season, and I'm sure when you saw him in the booth, he'd have his iPad. He'd pop out an iPad while he's watching a game. He's watching an iPad of another game. His situation is one where the game didn't pass him by because he's always been involved in it. I bet he spent probably as much time on the road than he has at home since he's retired, because he's always somewhere baseball related or something to do with ARF. And that's it. There's nothing else. He's not a hunter. He's not a fisherman. He's not a golfer. Well, he has golf clubs, but my point being, he has found this to be the one thing he likes to do, and that's be a baseball man.
Yeah, I think he said it was a special opportunity. So I'm waiting to hear what the response or the answer to that, or the what the special opportunity is out of his mouth. But you're right. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've never seen him anywhere without an iPad or a phone or the conversation of baseball. I'm like, I remember, this. The running joke was he retired and he came to dinner one night, and I said, well, now you can have a personality, because baseball was getting in the middle of that personality for all these years. But you know what? Didn't stop. He's still the same guy.
He hasn't changed one bit. He can piss you off. There's no doubt about it. And he'll get in your face about something he thinks isn't right. But the next day, he's the guy we all come to appreciate and certainly respect. So I'm rooting for him. And I think he's going to be good for the game. If nothing else, he's going to turn Chicago upside down. The guys on the north side are going to have to look over their shoulder, because they're going to be the number one thing in town now that he's in town.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope these young guys know what it's like to go get dinner, because if he flips a couple of dinner tables over after a bad loss, they ain't never seen anything like that before.
Hey, give me one of your favorite Tony moments. You guys had a great relationship. It had its hots and colds, but give me one of your favorite Tony moments.
Well, that one was good. I don't know where we were, but he flipped the table over after dinner and said, you guys didn't compete tonight, as he's flipping the dinner over, and said, now go out there and compete with the rest of everyone for dinner tonight. And it was a lot longer and drawn out and a lot more F-bombs and everything else, but that was a really good one. There's so many. Like, I'll tell you what, my favorite thing about Tony was the people that he stayed in touch with and cared about.
Yeah.
And he brought them into my life. And now I've become friends with them. And it seems like, to be honest with you, I don't know if there's been a more genuine, more sincere, more guy that's put himself out there other than Tony, with his relationships and his charities and his work. I don't know how he does it. I mean, I really he's, how old is he? 76, and he's still
77.
going strong. And talk about spreading yourself too thin. So I hope his health is good and he's good, and he's been great to me. And man, I mean, gosh, all the people you met through him.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Sitting there, I'm sitting on the table one day, I'm sitting with Bill Belichick and Parcells and Ron Wolf, and they're sitting there talking football, and I'm the only person in the training room. I'm sitting on the training table after surgery, and they're talking to me about, you should be halfback, and I'd take you on my team, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, I can't even walk. I got stitches in my knee still. So I love those days.
I've had some of those.
And, Tony was behind every one of them, and he did so much for me. I can't even explain it.
I've had days where Parcells and Wolf and Belichick would be in the booth in spring training, and they want to give me 15 minutes of football as long as I gave them 20 minutes of baseball. And because I love the history of football like baseball, I'm throwing names out at them, and they're just looking at me like, holy cow, and it was all because of Tony. And you think about the entertainers and everybody else that he knows that he's willing to share with you, the people that he knows. And you'll never meet a more giving person than Tony LaRussa, for sure, which is why that team in Chicago is going to be pretty good down the road.
Well, that's funny that you say that too, because you think about a lot of people that you've known over your lifetime, and if they have special tickets or a special friend or a superstar coming in, they would close their door, sneak out the back,
Mm-hmm.
go to a concert, not tell anyone. And this guy would take us all, and he'd bring us all in, and he'd introduce everyone and bring them in the clubhouse and give us free tickets to every concert he could get us to, and take us to those tables in spring training where 15 of us would sat around and watch Elton John. I mean, it was just, like you said, he gave more to everyone than people would ever know.
And he's got that witty sense of humor that a lot of people wouldn't get. And but when he got the red ass, then you better just step back and let him get it out of his system, because the next day he turned the page. He was a different guy, and he was the guy you knew before he got the red ass.
Yeah, he was. That was when I would peel off. I can tell when he was upset, and something was bothering him, and a lot of things bothered him because he took care of his players, and he respected his players, and he didn't respect the people that took shots at his players. So, man, if you read something in the paper, you could come in knowing that there was going to be a meeting of some sort with whoever said it.
He's Jim Edmonds. I'm Mike Claiborne. Man, it's been great to visit with you, man. Stay healthy, and I hope to see you before spring training.
I'll be around. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Mike Claiborne here with Ryan Kelly. And Ryan, buying a home is a really big deal. Give me some advice for those folks who are looking to buy a home.
Get pre-approved, and get pre-approved early in the process. In fact, if you're even considering buying a home, get pre-approved today at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Scammers posing as Ameren, Illinois representatives attempt to take money from customers via telephone, mail, email, door-to-door, and other in-person scams. Scammers especially target vulnerable groups such as small businesses, senior citizens, and people who don't speak English as their first language. Ameren, Illinois will never call you or show up at your door demanding immediate payments or personal information.
We get a phone call maybe once a month, every other month. The first time it happened was during the holiday season. They say, calling from Ameren. I think he said they're like 3 blocks away. They're shutting the power off somewhere else, and that they were coming to our store next. It seemed very suspicious. It did not seem right.
If you think you are being targeted by a scammer, hang up, close the door, end the conversation, and call Ameren, Illinois at 800-755-5000 to report the scam. Protect yourself. Report scammers. 800-755-5000.